All right, we're told the Republican leadership is fine with this, but this is a guy you want to win over because he can move a lot of votes. I'm talking about the conservative icon and House Freedom Caucus chairman, North Carolina Republican Mark Meadows. Congressman, very good to have you.
It's great to be back with you, Neil.
All right, so do you like this? Would you support this?
No, I don't support it, and I don't like it. I can tell you that only in Washington, D.C. can we start out with needing $25 billion for border security measures and expect applause at 1.37. I mean, only in D.C. is that a winning deal. I can tell you it is just not only a bad deal for the president. Ultimately, I expect him to sign it and keep the government open as a vehicle. But if he does that, then certainly executive action should be his next course of action.
All right, so if he goes ahead and signs this, as a lot of people seem to think he will, would you be disappointed in him, or would you be expecting he would follow up with an emergency measure?
Well, I expect him to follow up with some type of executive action, whether that's a national emergency or some of the other tools in his toolbox. I be disappointed?
What other tools does he have in his toolbox? Just appropriating funds from other areas? Chuck Schumer says because he has a Democratic House to deal with, you got to run that by them first.
Well, there's two different statutes that are out there, Neil, that do not require national emergency declaration that are already in law that give the president the flexibility to do that. My Democrat colleagues will even acknowledge that. They may not like it. I may not like it. But the fact of the matter is the president has the ability to do that. Will I be disappointed in him? No, I'm disappointed in Congress. Once again, we've failed to do what we promised the American people we would do, is appropriate an amount of money to secure our southern border. We've kicked the can down the road.
Well, are you in the camp of a guest was just with me just a second ago, Congressman, who argued he would lose his base? The president would lose his base signing on to this. Is that a bit extreme?
Yeah, I don't think he would lose his base as long as he follows it up and shows that the American people, that he's fighting for them to secure their communities. If he's willing to do that with executive action, I think the vast majority of us, myself included, would certainly recognize that he's doing all he can do to fulfill his promise to the American people.
All right. Now, do you fear, though, that doing so could risk yet another government shutdown?
Well, I mean, signing this bill does not risk another government shutdown. I've been in favor of doing a continuing resolution that actually would keep the government open while we continue to negotiate, allow the president to do some type of executive action, primarily because him signing this bill actually acknowledges the poor behavior that we've had from appropriators that says we're going to actually cut down the amount of money that the president was promised originally and declare that a victory. I'm not in favor of that. I stand to actually meet with some of my appropriator colleagues. Hopefully I can be convinced otherwise, but today it does not look promising.
So, Congressman, how many of your colleagues in the Freedom Caucus, I don't know what the numbers are these days, feel the same way you do?
Well, I think almost every member of the Freedom Caucus, but it goes well beyond the Freedom Caucus. I think most conservative members are having real heartburn today. I can tell you, it's the Democrats that are walking around here on Capitol Hill with a smile on their face today, not Republicans.
I don't know. I've talked to quite a few on both, including on Fox Business, which, by the way, Congressman, you don't get, you should demand. But one of the things they were telling me is we're not happy the way the leadership settled on this detention bed issue. We wanted it narrowed down to a little more than 16,000 beds. The ICE still gets to keep it north of 40,000. So they're not that pleased. And maybe it's a good thing when a deal is finally meted out that ticks off both sides. Maybe that is something that marks progress. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe so, Neil, but let me just tell you, there's a whole lot of talk that's going on right now. After the bill is signed into law, I think you'll see a very, very different style of rhetoric coming out. You know, they may be complaining about ICE beds today, but in the end, when we're talking about 55 miles of our border, the amount of money to secure that amount of mileage doesn't even secure the southern border of Mexico, let alone our southern border. So,
that was never in the offing anyway, right? The reason why I ask, Congressman, is apparently Senator Shelby's office says that the DHS appropriation would allow the Border Patrol to build a new steel slat wall that the president has been promoting, and that would win over more people maybe then we know, maybe yourself included. What do you think?
Well, we're waiting to see the language. Obviously, it's restricted to one certain section of our southern border, 55 miles from what I have been told currently. I hope I'm wrong, at this, but I can tell you that based on the conversations with rank and file members, both on the conference and those that have had discussions with conferees, I'm not optimistic that we're going to be able to secure the border with this measure. That's why it will require the president to take some type of executive action, and hopefully he will do that.
We will see. Very closely. Mark Meadows, House Freedom Caucus Chairman, very influential player in this debate. Thank you very much.